Agents in Minneapolis will soon be given body cameras. We'll discuss this and more in today's top stories. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also talk with the co-founder and CEO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. We'll discuss the pause on new H-1B visa applications. Plus, Hobby Center President and CEO Mark Folks joins us to unveil Broadway at the Hobby Center's 2026-27 season.
And as always, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. President Trump says he wants to nationalize election administration in the U.S., even though the Constitution gives states control over how voting works. NPR's Miles Parks has more.
To argue for more federal control of voting, the president repeated a false claim on Dan Bongino's podcast that he's made a lot in recent years, that non-citizens are swaying America's politics for Democrats.
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting.
It's unclear which places Trump is talking about wanting to take over, but he's been most critical of states with easier voting access and cities with large minority populations like Atlanta and Detroit. Miles Parks, NPR News, Washington.
It's day 4 of the partial government shutdown, and the House is voting today on whether to end it. The Senate voted to fund most of the government until the end of September last week after President Trump and the Democrats struck a deal to avoid another long shutdown. But the deal would only fund Homeland Security for 2 weeks, giving lawmakers time to negotiate changes to the Immigration Enforcement Agency. NPR's Claudia Grisales has more on ICE reforms, saying it's not a done deal.
We've already heard a lot of skepticism on both sides that even 2 weeks of talks are not enough. They're going to need a lot more time. Senate Democrats are demanding immigration agents stop wearing masks. They also want new rules on the use of warrants. They want immigration agents to wear body cameras. That's something DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said yesterday she would agree to, but Democrats don't trust that and they want it put in law.
NPR's Claudia Grisales reporting. Britain's former ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, is stepping down from the House of Lords after the recent release of files from convicted sex offender showed his name on more than 5,000 files. NPR's Lauren Frayer has more.
At the height of the 2008-9 banking crisis, Mandelson allegedly forwarded sensitive government information to his friend Jeffrey Epstein. In one instance, he's believed to have forwarded a confidential email within 4 seconds of receiving it. It's information allegedly then used to lobby for a U.S. bank against Mandelson's own government. Epstein revelations forced Mandelson to resign as ambassador and led King Charles to strip his brother Andrew of the title prince. The latest photos and emails are further fueling public distrust in British politicians, royals, bankers, and elites. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, London.
Wall Street's trading lower at this hour. The Dow is down 105 points. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The National Transportation Safety Board has released preliminary findings in the investigation into the plane crash in Galveston that killed 6 people last December. News 88.7's Juliana Washburn reports.
The plane was headed from Mexico to Shoals International Airport in Galveston on a medical mission. A key finding in the investigation shows there was a miscommunication between the flight crew and the air traffic controllers soon before the crash. The flight crew thought they were cleared to land, but air traffic controllers advised the flight crew multiple times that they were cleared for their approach. They were not cleared to land. The investigation notes there was low visibility in the area, and the plane was descending when all communication was lost.
Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo is raising concerns about the number of inmates in the Harris County Jail being flagged for mental health conditions. Commissioners approved her motion last week directing criminal justice leaders to look into new mental health diversion programs for defendants.
What I would like to hear is, yes, it's awful what's happening to these families. Yes, we have too many people in the jail who have mental illness, who by being in the jail are being put at risk unnecessarily. And we are going to see how we can use some of the savings to keep those people out of the jail.
The discussion came hours after a lawsuit was filed against Harris County asserting that an inmate with mental illness died in the jail after contracting sepsis. GLP-1 medications originally approved to treat diabetes but later popularized for their weight loss effects will now be researched at UT Health Houston for their potential to treat cocaine addiction. Dr. Luba Yamin is the study's co-principal investigator and is hoping to learn if the drug, which has been shown to suppress appetites, can curb other cravings as well.
The unique role of these medications potentially is that they will apply to multiple addictive behaviors. We call it polysubstance use. And so if these medications can work for polysubstance use, that will be truly a game changer in the addictions world.
The study is currently enrolling patients. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Lilly Endowment, a private foundation supporting NPR's coverage of religion and spirituality, and Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Good morning, Houston.
Good morning. Hello, Houston.
Yeah, it's not afternoon yet.
Well, no.
We're creeping up on it, though.
Yeah, some people are probably just waking up.
Thanks for joining us. It is February 3rd, 2026. We're glad you are listening.
Yeah.
Celeste was very unfamiliar at waking up at 11. I take you as a very early riser.
I try to be, yes. And my kids wake up early.
Well, you run. Do you run every morning?
No, I haven't been running a lot so far.
It's cold.
It's cold.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Although it's warming up, we're going to have a little cold front come through, and that's bringing in this bit of rain and what you're seeing out there right now with the clouds.
Gloomy outside.
Yeah, it's a little wet, but the front's going to actually come through tonight. So I'm hoping for a big line of thunderstorms that I can watch from my high rise. That's my favorite thing in the whole world. And then that brings us a cool down, like 60s and 40s. But by the weekend, we're 70s and 50s again. So a little cool down, then we warm up. Nothing like a big freeze that we had before.
So, done with it? The freezes?
Never say never.
I always want to get an absolute from you, Frank.
And they have the azalea trail and all that. And then they're like, wait a minute, where did this cold come from? We're having our azalea trail. So, really until mid-March, you are vulnerable to a freeze. And April 10th is the absolute outlying date where we had a freeze in Houston.
I remember growing up in South Texas, South Padre Island would always get all of these college students that would come in for spring break.
Yeah.
And every couple of years, a cool front would just come and it'd be rainy and miserable. And all these college kids that wanted to go party would be in their rooms.
Same thing with the Panhandle of Florida, the Redneck Riviera.
Yeah.
That's what we called it. In Birmingham, that's where we went to party. And that's Panama City, Destin, Fort Walton Beach, all of that. And sure enough, you'd be down there the second week of March, and here comes 40 degrees and rain. And you're like, no!
Drizzly.
I remember going to Mardi Gras once in New Orleans, and it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not what it's supposed to be at Mardi Gras.
It's interesting coincidence. 2021, Mardi Gras in Galveston was canceled as far as all the parades and everything.
Right.
But it was also that weekend that the freeze hit in 2021.
Oh.
So it would have been a disaster had Mardi Gras gone through with the parade and everything. But as it turned out, it all worked out.
It worked out.
Well, it's gearing up for this weekend, isn't it?
This weekend starts with Gambrinus. Well, actually, there's the funky Uptown Umbrella Brigade, which everybody brings a funky umbrella.
Cool.
That's on Friday night.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff leading up to that, but that's one of the big ones. And then that kind of kicks it off, the Gambrinus Parade and all these other parades and concerts. And then the next weekend is the San Luis Salute, and that's a big party. No word yet on who is going to be the entertainment. But Adam Levine has been known to show up. It can be a really big party. And then the Momus Parade will be that Saturday, and the Kids Parade the next Sunday, and then we're on to the rodeo.
And then rodeo season begins. Yeah. Well, we've got a lot on today's show, maybe not a Mardi Gras worth of things, but we've got some really cool stuff. Broadway at the Hobby Center is just announcing their new season of what touring shows will be coming to Houston starting in the fall. And so we'll be releasing that list in just a few minutes. I'm excited to see what they've got in store for us this year.
Fabulous.
And we'll also be talking about more serious topics, H-1B visa applications, get a deeper and a different perspective on it. And we're going to be talking with a judge candidate, and we've got an author coming up. We got a whole lot on today's show. But you know where we always start?
Do it.
Celeste starts us off with the headlines. What's going on in the news?
Thanks, Ernie. Federal immigration officers in Minneapolis will soon be wearing body cameras, the Department of Homeland Security announced on Monday. The move comes after the death of 2 U.S. citizens last month, Alex Preddy and Renee Good, during encounters with federal agents. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said the cameras will be issued immediately to all officers in the field in Minneapolis, aiming to increase accountability amid public concern over enforcement tactics. Meanwhile, protests related to federal immigration policy are spreading to local schools right here in Houston. Last week, students at Conroe High School staged a walkout during class, and at Elkins High School in Fort Bend County, students plan a peaceful walkout along the public sidewalk Monday morning, joining a growing wave of youth activism on immigration issues. What are your thoughts about these developments? Body cams, yes, no, good move, and school walkouts? Call 713-440-8870, or you can also text us at that same number.
Effective immediately, we are deploying body cameras. Well, where the heck was that before they even went into the streets?
Well, it's interesting, too, because they do say some of these agents already had them on them, but they weren't activated. Also, in the Renee Good situation, we have a very good vision of what was happening because one of the guys was shooting it with his cell phone and walked around. So I don't know at this point, with the amount of cameras that seem to be focused on everything that goes out, it'll give us yet another perspective on it.
It's too little too late.
But as we heard in the newscast just before our show started, it's great to make a proclamation you're going to do something, but lawmakers want to see it written into law. And that has to be legal, that they have to, by law, wear them and record them.
Well, it's just good policy to wear body cameras when you're carrying guns and you're going into crowds and you're arresting people. There are too many things that can go wrong. And not just murders that obviously happened.
It's accountability.
But accountability, right.
Yeah.
There's too much. Just hitting someone's door with one of those logs that they tear somebody's door down. Mm-hmm. We have video of that.
Right. But the thing that we always have to keep in mind, though, is when you see a video from these situations, you're only seeing an isolated moment. They don't often give you the full perspective of everything that was at play or what happens before and after. And so you always have to at least view them with that eye, understanding there could be surrounding events.
Body cameras to me seems a little bit like a Band-Aid on bad policy. When we look at this seems very reactive versus it being proactive to really what the issue communities are seeing and happening. This is a layer of defense for ICE agents, which, that is a good thing that they can say, this is essentially from my perspective, this is what was happening. We want more transparency. We want more clarity. But again, Band-Aid on bad policy in regards that ICE grew very, very fast under the One Big Beautiful Bill. And when we look at this is now the administration is having to go back and remedy issues. And at the end of the day, there are 2 people that have lost their lives.
Yeah, and those aren't coming back.
Right. And cameras wouldn't have changed that either. Like you're saying, it's the policy. It's the way, the behavior that's happening out there. Now, if that helps to curb behavior, that maybe agents will think twice, not to say agents aren't thinking, but to think twice before something happens, because if there is a record of it, if there is more accountability, that can only help. It's shining a light in a dark corner.
You could survey a lot of officers of every kind who always wear body cameras and ask them, did this curb your behavior? Did this tone down a situation? Do you think before you speak when you are being recorded, both audio and video? Does it work? I would suspect their answer is yes, it does work, or we wouldn't think this is important, because it is important. But then British computer guy says body cameras aren't enough. They need to have name badges and no masks.
And that's what I do believe the Democrats in Congress are asking for, is that this be written into law, that they have to unmask themselves. We have to be able to identify who these agents are.
Can I move to the high school kids?
Yes.
Because, wasn't there this proclamation or this law that the Texas legislature said no DEI clubs in schools? Well, you can't get much more DEI than walking out in protest of immigration, can you? They organized this during the school day, and then the walkout happened during the school day. Doesn't this seem like something that would not be allowed by the governor's new proclamation, that we're not going to have any DEI in schools? Makes you pause, doesn't it?
It does. I'm trying to think. I've read some stuff on it and looking into it. And
I'm all for it, by the way. I'm all for it.
There's something about, and I'm trying to remember what these principals were saying about students have the right to still be students. Your First Amendment right doesn't end just because you go to class, and that you have a right to protest. I guess the issue that came up around it was that there were police and security there, and people were saying that because the police and security were brought in, it was in a sense the schools endorsing the walkout, where the principals were saying, no, our job is to keep our students safe. So if this event is happening, we need to make sure there is security there. So that's not the same thing as endorsing a walkout, but always making sure that you keep your students safe.
Well, they did go to the public sidewalk outside the campus, so it's not, I guess at that point, any longer a school event.
And you're not a prisoner in school.
No.
So.
I just think it's interesting. Good for them, though. I'm glad they had the wherewithal to stand up to something they disagree with and object.
713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston. Speaking of which, we have, I can see a little group of little faces. We have an elementary school visiting us right now.
Hey, kiddos.
And as we talk about students, it's great to see students seeing journalism.
Nice.
And because there's a bunch of students in there, I'm going to skip over my headline and let's go over to Frank's.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's a smart idea.
Yes.
It was about the Epstein files.
It was, and we're going to move on for right now. We'll come back.
This is crazy, but not a surprise. Sunday night, President Trump announced plans to close the Kennedy Center, which he knows it as the Trump Kennedy Center, for the performing arts for 2 years for, quote, construction, revitalization, and complete rebuilding to create what he said, quote, can be, without question, the finest performing arts facility of its kind anywhere in the world. The timing of the announcement has taken many aback, especially in D.C. But, of course, there have been so many cancellations of performances. I think this was his, as you say, Celeste, a Band-Aid on a much bigger sore.
It's more keeping face.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
saving face, I guess, is the expected
What more to say? There's a whole paragraph here to talk about it. But, I mean, what more to say? What are your thoughts, Ernie, on closing the Trump Kennedy Center?
I think the Kennedy Center, as I know it, is an important institution for our nation, and to have it and to celebrate the arts that come out of this country and how we support them. To close it is an uncomfortable move. Yeah. Now, some reports have been that when he was there for a screening of Melania, he walked around the Kennedy Center and thought it looked shabby and stuff, and maybe I would assume he thought it needed a little more gold, and so he wanted to renovate. He thought it didn't look good.
Needed a facelift?
Yeah. A Mar-a-Lago facelift, maybe.
At least some Botox.
A little filler?
A little filler.
Others will say it's because of the embarrassment of so many acts canceling and the lack of support. It's the lowest ticket sales they've had since the pandemic, and that during pandemic time is the only time it matched this low a number of sales, and that what else to do? It's becoming an embarrassment to
And
them.
what's it going to cost us in our tax dollars?
I saw somewhere, I want to say in the range of $200 million.
That's what I saw
something.
too.
Yeah, it's rather surprising in a time we're having such economic challenges, I guess is the best way to put it, that we're building a $1 billion ballroom, a $250 million renovation of.
Well, let's get the Washington Post or the New York Times in there with photographers so that they can show us exactly what's been shabby and run down that needs. I suspect the Kennedy Center stays pretty up to standard.
Right.
It is so busy.
I have never been, actually. Have you
I've
ever
been to the Kennedy Center, yes. Yeah. It's massive and it's beautiful, and you feel special when you're there. But I haven't been lately to know if it's shabby.
Yeah.
But I think that a good photographer could show me.
Yeah.
Get in there and say, hey, yeah, he's right. Trump he has a good eye for decorating.
Do you think, let me ask Celestis, do you think artists should cancel engagements because they don't believe with the political agenda of the current administration? Do you think that those two things should tie together, or do you think the arts should go on as the arts and the policy should go on as policy?
Right. Can you separate the artist from politics? Or
a lot of that came out on the Grammys, and should the artists be saying things? And
a part of me thinks that more than ever we need artists to continue to put their talents and art out there. Mm-hmm. And that if at any given moment, we are going to continue to have different administrations and politics is going to continue to go on. But as for the public, when artists start saying, well, no, I'm not going to do that, I think the only people that suffer are the public. I mean, politicians are going to continue to go on. So as much as it's kind of also when I was thinking about the students, I wear many hats. And so a part of me says, I think I would hope that artists, even during hard times, would continue to put out their art for everyone. And it's not about politics. It's about what they bring to the community. It's what they bring to the world. And I would hope that they would continue and say, you know what? My work, my art, what I bring is bigger than the president. It's bigger than politics. It's bigger, and it's a way of bringing people together and having a moment where somebody can sit in a seat and escape and see and hear and experience something really beautiful.
And they can do that. And the public can say, Celeste, because you've chosen to play at the Trump Kennedy Center, I'm not going to buy any of your albums or listen to your songs anymore because you've taken a political stance. When all the other artists have said, no, I'm not going to play, you've chosen to do that. I just don't think they're on their own. I don't think they're an island in this situation where the artist in and of him or herself said, okay, I'm not going to play the Kennedy Center. I think they were looking at low ticket sales and possibly pressure from the public saying, we don't want you to play there. But I don't know. But I think there's so much going into this whole fiery little situation that it's not just the artist.
But that's the thing, right, is that if everything is so, and I understand that politics has become culture now. Everything is culturally connected to politics. And that isn't, where do we go from here if every single, it's more division. And I think people it's getting tired. It's being, absolutely, I understand how a lot of people would say, oh, you support President Trump. What if they said, no, this is politics aside. Yeah. I'm an artist and I'm scheduled to perform here. And even if tickets are low, I am still going to perform to those people that are, even if it's empty, because there are a lot of fabulous and great artists that have spent years performing to empty seats.
We have a text and a call. Text says that art's always been political. They should use their platform in a way they can. That's fair enough. We have a call from Toy from Sugarland. Hi, Toy. What are your thoughts on this?
Hi, good morning. Yes, I think now more than ever before, it is important for celebrities and artists to make a stand, not perform under certain political banners. This isn't ordinary times, people. We are literally watching the destroying of the fabric of American democracy. And with that said, if you have a platform, use that platform. We may not be afforded the opportunity to save ourselves again. So, no, they shouldn't sit this one out.
Thank you, Toy. And as Ernie likes to remind us, everyone has a voting platform.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
It's also, artists have always, I'm assuming, always been activists. Activism and art
like Bob Dylan.
Hand in hand. Yeah, that's what I thought of too, Bob Dylan, And so,
now
yes,
Springsteen.
There is a degree of that I think plays into it. But I also was thinking when all of this was going on, Do I know who runs all of the different performing arts venues that we attend concerts at? Do we know the political stance of a lot of these folks that run X, Y, and Z auditorium? Now, in this case, Trump has definitely put his name literally on it.
That's an issue within itself, which I understand. And I get it. And I'll be honest, every single day, I feel like I am faced with holding space for we look at the news and we see what is happening. I think there are a lot of people that, I wish I could be black and white. I wish I could just be like, absolutely, artists shouldn't perform under that banner 100%. No. But the truth is that they are providing something that is beautiful. And you can be an activist and you can continue to do that through your art 100%. And there are ways to do it. I just don't know if pulling all of a sudden everything. Have a free concert somewhere else. Do something else then.
And they may be. And I'm curious. I don't know the venues in the Washington, D.C. area. I don't know what is of similar size where they can relocate performances to, how the community still gets it. And I should probably know more on that. And I'll finish it up by saying it's the same way I think about news overload. A lot of people say, I've just tuned out and I'm not watching the news. I just can't. I've got to take a vacation from it. And then on the other hand, I think, but when you do, then they win. When you're not paying attention to what's happening, things can happen that you don't know about. And on some level, I think oftentimes that's what they want. Well, flood the scenes.
Flood the zone.
Celeste, you're a thinking person. This is what philosophy is all about, trying to see all sides of a logical or illogical argument. So don't beat yourself up. That's good. I know. We do have one more call, and then we'll wrap up here. Professor Jay from the North Side. Professor, what are your thoughts on this?
Hey, guys. Good morning. And yes, Celeste, it is Professor. Last time my integrity was questioned, I spent 15 years in Agnes Arnold Hall working on bachelor's, master's, and PhDs, and I teach at Lone Star North Harris. In terms of this Kennedy Center thing and arts, that we saw artists protest in South Africa by not performing in South Africa. We saw during the modern civil rights movement that artists protested. You saw during the Vietnam War, you saw artists protest. For artists to not perform, for artists to perform at the Kennedy Center under that new name, for them to not perform is a protest of the defiling of the Kennedy Center and the breaking of law. That's a form of protest. Our nation was founded on protest, guys, from the colonial era. So I think, no, you don't give legitimacy. You don't go perform and give legitimacy to what is an illegal act. But by law, you can't change the name, So that's my position. I wholly support that form of protest. And it's not about entertainment, that, they need to entertain and let people give access to their music and their art. No, they need to let people know this ain't right, and that's how they speak the loudest. It's more important than entertaining the public.
That's a great point.
Yeah, Professor Jay, thank you for calling and sharing that with us.
Okay.
Coming up on Hello Houston, Miriam Feldblum, co-founder and CEO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration, will discuss the pause on the new H-1B visa applications. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Metro is introducing a brand new fare system to the Houston region. Say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare System will replace the old Metro Q Fare Card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. You'll be able to buy Ride Metro cards at all Metro ride stores, ticket vending machines, order online, and from a growing network of retailers throughout the region. When it comes to moving about Houston, we want you to choose Metro. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q fare card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to handling claims to help injured workers get back to work. More at texasmutual.com/mutual care. Support comes from San Jacinto College Foundation, presenting Couture for a Cause, an evening of celebrating fashion and philanthropy to benefit the promise at Sanjack Scholarship, Friday, April 24th, 6 p.m. Details at sanjack.edu/gala. Support comes from Belmont Village Senior Living, committed to enriching the lives of seniors through daily programs, custom care, and hospitality in assisted living and memory care. 2 Houston area locations. More at belmontvillage.com/Houston.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered public universities and state agencies to pause new H-1B visa applications, a move he says is meant to prioritize jobs for Texans. The directive has raised questions about how it could affect higher education, research, and healthcare across the state. Joining us now to discuss the implications is Miriam Feldblum, co-founder and CEO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. Miriam, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, before we get into the whole conversation, can you fill us in on who is the Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration? It's a new group to me.
Wonderful. I'd be happy to. So we are an alliance of close to 600 colleges and universities from across the country, including in Texas, who have come together around the immigration issues that impact our students, our institutions, our campus communities, with the goal of supporting immigrant, international, and refugee students, graduates, and other campus members, and working to support a common sense, forward-looking immigration policy that will benefit our communities, our states, and our country.
So, Miriam, is that college presidents that we're talking about?
Thank you for asking. Yes, college and university presidents and their institutions, public and private, all different kinds.
Not the president of this country.
Not the president of the country. The apostrophe is after the S.
Yes. So with that in mind, this policy that came out from Texas Governor Greg Abbott about pausing these H-1B visa applications, your concerns, thoughts, maybe even excitements about it, where do you fall on this?
Sure. And here's what I would say is that we know that America needs domestic and global talent. It's not an either or proposition. It's a yes and proposition. We need to support domestic talent, which also includes our immigrant populations, and global talent, international talent, who often come through our colleges and universities as international students and scholars, but then directly benefits our communities and states and country. So speaking specifically about the higher ed sector, we know that part of what has made U.S. higher education the best in the world is that we've been able to attract the best people for the positions, which benefits the students, the campus, the state, where the institution's located. So Texas has benefited greatly from international students, scholars, and professionals, both on campus and beyond. And diminishing that ability to recruit and attract global talent will harm economic growth and innovation opportunities in Texas in the short and long term.
Well, Miriam, correct me if I'm wrong, the H-1B visas are for researchers, doctors, professors. I mean, these are high-end, well-educated people that come into our country on an H-1B visa. And to put that against the governor saying, we need to make sure those jobs are available for Texans, okay, but nobody at this table could fill those jobs, I can tell you that. I mean, these are these are high-educated people, highly educated people for these jobs. So what gives with the governor thinking that there are a bunch of Texans lined up and not being treated to these positions?
It's really important to state it just as you did, because in fact, President Trump did so as well. When there was some concerns around H-1B visas, he said, not everyone can fill it. It's not like we can just line up anyone on the street to fill jobs. Mm-hmm. So these are specialized. The H-1B visas is a temporary non-immigrant work visa for professionals, usually with a bachelor's degree or higher, and that you need that degree for that position. And for some positions, it's very clear, right? If you think about doctors or engineers or chemists, but this is also linguists, librarians, geologists, and more. And with all these positions, I would say that what we find is that it is both looking to support domestic populations, right? Yes, great if there are Texans, but what we know about doctors is that there's a shortage. What we know about STEM fields is that there's a shortage. And who's helping to drive our workforce development, drive entrepreneurship and research and innovation? It is international students, graduates, and professionals.
And to just follow up, almost exactly what Frank just asked, but flipping it so that you have a chance to say it this way. Is there a surge of these type of candidates for jobs out there that cannot find jobs today that are American talent?
What I will say is this, is that what we find in the job markets is that these are job markets with very low unemployment and a need for more supply. So what the research has actually shown is that recruiting international professionals through the H-1B pathway and other pathways actually leads to more jobs, more patents, and more opportunities for domestic workers and the U.S. economy. So that's really important. In the short term, restricting opportunities for international professionals will lead to job shortages in key fields, or also will lead to colleges and universities in Texas probably not getting the best person, their top candidate that they may want for the position in some of these searches. And over time, these barriers, these restrictions will reduce opportunities for all American workers and undercut our innovation.
Miriam, Texas is one of the top states in the country for H-1B visa holders. I believe it's California is actually number one, having the most H-1B visa recipients in their state. Can you give us, though, a concrete example of the impact? When you say, you mentioned more jobs, what does that actually look at based on the amount of H-1B visas that are given out? And if we're looking at pausing any more future ones, give us some numbers that we can really understand the impact.
Okay, that's a great question. Let me shift it a little bit and talk about the importance of international students for public institutions. Mm-hmm. So what the research shows that for every one international student that a public institution enrolls, that enables 2 domestic students to enroll. And the reason why I go back to the international students is that the H-1B visa is the most common work visa for international student graduates. So what's happening is not just the immediate impact, but what it's also going to do is reduce the attractiveness of Texas colleges and universities for international students, both to come study in institutions in Texas, but also to continue working in Texas. It's going to reduce those individuals coming to Texas and creating jobs, creating new industries. I mean, just think about the fact that Elon Musk held an H-1B visa, right? Went from being an international student to an H-1B visa holder. So I think that it's important to kind of think about it both in the immediate, but also to recognize that this has long-term implications.
We are speaking with Miriam Feldblum, co-founder and CEO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. If you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870. We do have Cosima for Kingwood on the line. Cosima, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Who have worked in many companies throughout Houston over the years. Anecdotally, I do want to say that I've seen that the H-1B visa program has been utilized by corporations to get their staff at a much lower rate, and it caused me and my colleagues, U.S. citizens, to have that extra competition. We would often not be able to secure a position or had to go at a lower rate. And I just wanted to say that I also noticed that it wasn't higher professional staff, at least in the software development field. Anyone could get these positions. They weren't necessarily super experts. So I'll take your comment off the line. Thank you.
Cosima, thank you very much for that. Miriam, do statistics uphold what we're hearing there?
So I want to say two things. I think it's really important to listen carefully and seriously to all the concerns that individuals have around, here's how I experienced, what happened to me in my company. What I can say is that for colleges and universities, there is a process for applying for an H-1B visa, and this applies to all employers, in which you have to demonstrate what is going to be the salary levels, right? Why does this person qualify for this job, and in what ways is it a specialized occupations? What is true is that while most, if we think about international graduates, most are pursuing H-1B visas in STEM fields, it can apply to any field in which a specialized degree is necessary.
That's an interesting comment she had, though, that there are at least corporations that take advantage of this to hire someone for less money, and then the people doing that job either have to lower their salary to match it, or they get pushed out altogether. Maybe not at the university level, but it does happen. So maybe that's where I guess the governor is. We're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The governor is trying to protect these citizens here, and also it's going to affect the other ones.
Right. I think it's the wrong solution for the wrong problem. Right. I think that you want to have programs with integrity, and let's go after how we do that. And not to eliminate programs that hurt the economy and the chances for everyone in the community.
So then I have to ask, Miriam, we do have a caller waiting on the line, but then I have to ask simply, then what is the solution? If you have concerns around organizations, companies from a corporate level taking advantage of the H-1B visa, or you have employees locally, local talent that's saying, hey, wait a minute, that H-1B visa is also bringing in competition and, lowering the wage for local talent. What then is the solution if it isn't for the governor to say, we're going to pause this program because we need to really look at it?
Yeah, and I think, again, what's missing there is that there already have been reforms and reviews of the program also at the federal level. In fact, the previous administration was also working to improve the H-1B visa program in terms of its processes and integrity. Overall, this is an essential program for the U.S. economy and for our industry and research and innovation.
Let's go to one more call.
We
have one more call, and we're running out of time. Let's go to Mahendra from Clear Lake. Mahendra, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for taking my call. Yeah, I just want to give you a quick background. I was also on H-1B visa. I came here on H-1B and then worked for the state of Texas for a government agency, and then moved on, and now I'm, citizen and all that. But exactly, I wanted to say the same thing that you kind of touched earlier. The proclamation or the way that governor has done it, really does not address the issue at all, not even touch it. Because the real problem is in the private sector. It's absolutely not in the government or state agencies or universities. A lot of fraud on H-1B is happening in the private sector, where like companies like, I don't want to take any names, but big tech companies, they use these body shop companies to kind of hire, people, so-called tech skills, and pay them really, really low wages. And so that's where exactly all the fraud is happening, where they're, basically hiring these people here, but they're working in Bangalore, India, or in Thailand or somewhere else. And they're getting paid much less wages than an American would get here. So this one that the governor has done, it really does not address the private sector issue. And most of the H-1B fraud happens in the private sector. Very, very, very little fraud happens in the government or agencies or universities because they are bound by state laws and their wages are published and decided by the legislature. So,
Mahendra, thank you for your call. Miriam, your reaction.
Absolutely. And I would say the current administration has also made some changes to continue to refine and to strengthen the H-1B lottery system, which is where those individuals would come through. Colleges and universities are exempt from the lottery system. And absolutely, let's continue to address the specific issues. But bottom line, if we want to lead in research, innovation, and industry, and retain our competitive edge, then we need to attract and not discourage global talent, which is what this does.
Miriam Feldblum is co-founder and CEO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. Miriam, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Coming up, a look at the Hobby Center's upcoming season. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro Fare system will replace the old Metro Q fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
I'm Kai Risdall doing what it takes to make that turn next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace. That's coming up this evening at 6:30.
Haitians represent one of the largest groups under the government's Temporary Protected Status program. The Trump administration is trying to end it. More than 300,000 Haitian immigrants in the U.S. faced having their legal status removed this week. A judge blocked the ending of those protections temporarily. What's ahead for Haitian immigrants in the U.S. and for TPS? Next time on 1A.
1A is on today. You can listen at 2 p.m.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from British International School of Houston, where learning is enhanced through collaborations with Juilliard, MIT, UNICEF, and IMG Academy. More at bishouston.org.
Support comes from the law firm McFarland PLLC, eminent domain attorneys focused exclusively on representing landowners against the government's taking of private property for public use across the state of Texas. More at McFarlandPLLC.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DeCamera, presenting Brooklyn Rider, Frida's Dreams, with the premiere of a string quartet by Gabriela Lena Frank, inspired by Frida Kahlo, February 20th at Hobby Center. Tickets at DeCamera.com.
Support comes from Blake Hillegeist Real Estate, independent commercial and residential real estate broker with over 30 years experience guiding clients through economic downturns, realty challenges, and everyday life situations. More at BlakeSellsHouston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
A new year means new season announcements from many of Houston's local arts organizations. Today, we're unveiling Memorial Herman's Broadway at the Hobby Center 2026-27 season. And we're going to find out what Broadway tours are coming here to Houston. And joining us right now to share that announcement, Mark Folks, President and CEO of the Hobby Center. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. It's always an exciting time of the year for us.
Well, I'm always trying to get this early, and I'm always asking people, and they're so can you tell me? And nobody would tell me anything until I finally got the list. You guys kept it really tight-lipped this year.
Well, you are very first. I think that is well known that we're going to be here first. So
well,
thrilled to have
thank
the invitation.
you. So let's not bury the lead. What have you got coming?
There are so many incredible shows. We have 10 productions productions. 6 of those are premieres for Houston audiences that will all be a part of the 26-27 Memorial Herman Broadway at the Hobby Center season. And we are actually opening the season with one of the most loved musicals of generation for 65 years. This production has just continued to bring complete joy to audiences, and that's The Sound of Music.
One people have heard of. Celeste got a big gasp there.
That is a classic. That is just like you said, everybody can enjoy that.
That's exactly right. And this production is directed by Jack O'Brien, 3-time Tony Award winner, well known for just creating joy on stage. And that is exactly what we'll be able to do through this really exciting production.
Is it a fairly standard set that we're going to see? You know, so many of these older musicals are giving them a whole new modern edge.
This is a traditional retelling of The Sound of Music.
Julie Andrews could be there somewhere.
That's right. That's one of the first questions that always comes up. Is this going to be something different and new? It's like, no, we've got The Sound of Music, and it's going to be what you're expecting.
It takes place in Arizona in the 1980s. It's really a great new... For people to understand, too, these are the national tours that are coming through. These are not local produced shows. These are what you see, the caliber of talent, the caliber of programming you would see on Broadway.
That's exactly right. The Broadway series is all about latest and greatest from New York. And so the majority of the shows in our season have just opened within the past couple of years in New York and have had successful runs. And then we're working to capture them first so that Houston audiences have that experience.
So, Mark, I know we have a lot to get through, but I do want to ask you about that process. How does that work? Because, you know, people think it just shows up here in Houston, but you were going and having these conversations. Who do you talk to, and how does that work?
So our team here in Houston works directly with the folks in New York, at Broadway Across America, to really think about what Houston audiences are going to respond to, and then we create our dream list.
Yeah.
And so we start those conversations about 2 years before the season starts. And then from there, there's a lot of Tetris that happens. It's all logistics of when is our venue available, when is the tour available. You know, it's not possible to get from Seattle with 18 trucks to Houston overnight.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that it works with the routing for the tour nationally. And so all of that puzzle comes together, and we get to this point of the year when we're about 9 months out and we get to announce the season.
Well, one big one that's coming, when I was in New York last time, everyone was talking about it. Buena Vista Social Club is your second show coming in November.
Everybody loves it.
It's an incredible new production. It's been a surprise, really, for producers, for audiences. Certainly, folks were expecting a positive response to some extent, but actually, it's been far better received than imaginable. 5 Tony Awards for this production this year. The instrumentalists are on stage. This is all about the music, and ultimately, audiences get transported. I know that that's always such a treat when you sit in the theater and you get to recreate a completely new place, and that happens, and we're all in Havana together. So come and join us in November for that.
And this may sound like an old comment to make, but it's worth reminding people. Broadway is not stereotypically Broadway musical as you may think. When you have something, Buena Vista Social Club, you bring different styles of music, different sounds, that really Broadway is so much broader than it used to be.
It is so much more, and we still have traditional musicals like The Sound of Music and like Boop that's coming up later in the season that really is defined by just classic musical theater. But then we have new productions that really innovate in the space, and Buena Vista does that. We just had a production last week, Water for Elephants. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to see it, but really expands that idea of what a musical can be as well.
Yeah, and I will get to Boop in a minute, but we don't want to skip over The Notebook.
The Notebook, obviously, so many folks have read that book and know the film, and this is a perfect capturing of this story on stage, and it's incredibly moving. It has a remarkable score by Ingrid Michaelson, and it's just a really special story.
And everybody cries?
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting next to my colleague, Sherry Johnson, and when we saw it in New York together, and then we got outside of that theater, and Sherry could not contain herself. I had never seen that.
I know, you have to know Sherry to know what a big thing this is.
It was epic. I don't know how thrilled she's going to be with me telling that story, but
I'm gonna talk to her about that next.
Bring your Kleenex.
I would say the scariest thing about The Notebook coming to Houston is that it launches 2027. You know, we're already in that year. But that'll be your January offering, the top of the year. But also then, as we mentioned, Boop
Boop.
Kind of a whole different direction than the Notebook Cry to...
We need to lift people back up after, and so that is exactly what Boop does. Jerry Mitchell, one of the most acclaimed choreographers, directors on Broadway, just brings all of the traditional musical theater joy. This is a perfect show for families. We love to make sure that we have something every season that you can bring the whole family to, and this is that show. It is really special.
And then I'm sure you won't be inviting Patti LuPone because it's way too loud, but Alicia Keys' Hell's Kitchen will be with us March 5th.
We are not supposed to have favorites in this business. This is one of my personal favorites. It
really?
is such a thrilling show. And this is not an autobiography of Alicia Keys. There are elements of her life that have been incorporated into this story, but it's about this young girl coming of age, a 17-year-old in Hell's Kitchen, this iconic neighborhood in New York, and bringing all of the energy of Alicia Keys' music that we all know so well. And it is just such a special treat.
Hell's Kitchen has been pretty gentrified the last 30 years. When did she grow up that it was a tough place to live?
Yeah, that is much more present in this production than the Hell's Kitchen of today. Yes.
Yeah. I guess so.
When you're looking again at this list, how much of what you set out to curate and finalize is this list from the beginning to now?
I would say that this is such a close representation. There are always one or two shows that we were striving for that don't make it through. But honestly, the reputation in Houston for our audience's response to Broadway gives us a lot of credit when working with the producers of each of these shows to be able to get first on the list.
That's fabulous.
What's really going to excite a lot of people, and I knew it was going to tour, and I'm so happy it's in your season, Death Becomes Her. April next year.
People love that.
It was playing next to our hotel last time I was in New York, and we were like, no, we'll wait till it comes to Houston. I'm sure it's going to come to Houston. You made a truth teller out of me.
You will just sit for this production just laughing for the full 2.5 hours of this show. People ask me all the time, what should I go see when I'm in New York? This is always at the very top of my list because it's such broad appeal. It's comedy. Folks love to be entertained. And this does some really special things on stage.
And for those who don't know, based on the film of the same name, and just has been a juggernaut. People have loved it.
Yes, and you got to wait for that stair fall. Everyone knows the iconic stair fall from the movie. It is replicated on stage.
Well, going back to Celeste and families, Harry Potter.
Harry
Potter. Child is coming.
We have a 2-week engagement of Harry Potter. This is so exciting. Folks have been waiting for several years because this has not been out on the road. And it is now just available to audiences across the country. And we know that it captures all of the magic that folks love from the series and does that in an incredible way on stage. And, this whole idea of what can theater be, this is really expanded with Harry Potter.
And that's that. I was just going to say that, it's as a parent for a young child, we always talk about literature and the love of reading. And so a lot of times I'll say we can't watch the movie until we see the book. And so until we read the book. So then to be able to say, okay, now you're going to get to go see it in the theater live is such a treat. And almost that final component to bringing a love of literature, a book to life.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. We just had The Outsiders this fall, and it was that same experience. We have Gatsby coming up, and the opportunity for students to connect to something that they've read on page and then seeing it brought to life on stage is magical.
We are running tight on time, and I don't want to leave anything out. So then you're going to wrap the season officially with Jersey Boys, a big favorite of people. If you haven't seen it, see Jersey Boys. Then you have 2 season options. You'll explain what that means. But Beetlejuice is one of them, a crowd pleaser. And then the show of our ages, Wicked, is coming back to the Hobby Center.
Have you heard of the show?
Yeah, right. I heard it vaguely. I think it may catch on, though.
Yeah, a couple of people have asked, are you doing a screening of the film?
Yeah, no. This is
the original musical, and we are so excited to have Wicked back for 5 weeks next summer.
Somebody said, any chance of O'Mary coming to Houston?
We'll see what happens in the weeks ahead. I would tell Houston audiences to stay tuned.
Oh, because it is on tour now.
Yes,
that kind of answer tells me someone's trying to negotiate something good. You can find out where. Tell us all.
You can head to houston.broadway.com to learn all about both the current and upcoming season. Mark Folks is the president and CEO of the Hobby Center. Mark, thanks for joining us and sharing this special news with us.
Thank you so much.
Very excited.
Coming up, we'll continue discussing today's top stories. We'll also talk with attorney Ebony Williams about her run for judge of Harris County Civil Court at Law Number 2. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
We have a 70% chance of showers this afternoon, and we'll get up to around 70 degrees for the high. Showers likely tonight, a low near 50. Right now, overcast and 69. I'm Tom Carter. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, applications for Texas' controversial new school voucher program will open starting tomorrow. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with local attorney Ebony Williams about her run for the Harris County Civil Court at Law No. 2 judge seat. Plus, we'll also chat with award-winning media executive Amy DuBois Barnett, who will tell us all about her debut novel, If I Ruled the World.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Remember, you can watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. The House this hour narrowly voted to advance a partial government shutdown-ending budget package, setting it up for a final vote later today that could send the more than $1 trillion measure to President Trump for his signature. It funds much of the government through the end of September, but it only funds the Department of Homeland Security for 2 weeks, giving lawmakers a chance to debate changes to the agency. This after Democrats refused to approve DHS funding without restrictions on immigration enforcement tactics after 2 U.S. citizens in Minnesota were killed by federal officers. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says federal immigration officers in Minneapolis will start wearing body cameras. NPR's Franco Ordonez has more.
The Homeland Security Secretary announced on social media that, quote, effective immediately, we are deploying body cameras to every officer in the field in Minneapolis. She went on to say that the program will be expanded nationally as funding becomes available, but did not elaborate. The surge of federal law enforcement and the aggressive tactics used have faced widespread scrutiny. Trump has shuffled leadership of the crackdown in Minnesota, sending Border Czar Tom Homan to oversee the operation. Democrats made body cameras for federal officers one of their demands in exchange for support for Homeland Security funding. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
Ukraine's main power provider says last night's strikes on the country's energy facilities from Russia were the biggest this year. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley has more.
The main targets were the central and southern region in Kyiv. Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said more than 1,000 apartment buildings in several districts were left without heating. The overnight temperature in Kyiv was -4 degrees Fahrenheit. President Volodymyr Zelensky wrote on Telegram that, quote, taking advantage of the coldest days of winter to terrorize people is more important for Russia than using diplomacy. Zelensky reiterated that the war cannot be ended without pressure on Russia. He said Ukraine can be protected from attacks by the timely delivery of air defense missiles. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Kyiv.
Pepsi's cutting prices on some of its popular snack foods. NPR's Scott Horsley explains.
Pepsi has heard from shoppers fed up with high grocery prices, some of whom are switching to cheaper store brand products. Pepsi sold fewer bags of Doritos, Cheetos, and Lay's potato chips in its most recent quarter. The company's planning to cut prices by up to 15% to regain market share. Prices of corn chips and guacamole were already falling ahead of this weekend's Super Bowl. Disney has tapped the head of its theme park division to be its next CEO. Josh D'Amaro will take over for Bob Iger at the company's annual meeting next month. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Wall Street's trading lower at this hour. The Dow is down 379 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Newly elected Congressman Christian Menefee says it's time the 18th Congressional District had a say in national affairs. He spoke to Congress shortly after being sworn in last night.
It's been more than 330 days since the people of the 18th Congressional District had representation, had a voice in Congress. When this body took on important votes about whether to cut SNAP benefits, about whether to make it more difficult to access Medicaid, important issues, this district had no voice in Congress.
Menefee will finish the term of late Congressman Sylvester Turner. In order to hold the seat, he will have to compete in next month's primary election, which includes longtime Congressman Al Green. Researchers at UT Health Houston are now testing the effectiveness of semaglutide, more commonly known by brand names Ozempic and Mounjaro, to treat cocaine addiction. Semaglutide was originally approved to treat diabetes, but was later popularized for its ability to suppress appetite. Now, the National Institute on Drug Abuse has granted UT Health Houston nearly $3 million to investigate if the drug can combat other cravings as well. News 88.7's Bianca Seward spoke with the lead researchers of the study.
Semaglutide works by mimicking the natural hormone GLP-1, which is produced in the stomach and sends signals to receptors in the brain, where hunger and satisfaction are controlled. Patients in the study pair the GLP-1 dose with weekly cognitive behavioral therapy. Dr. Joy Schmitz, the director for UT Health's Center for Neurobehavioral Research on Addiction, explains how the two work hand in hand.
If this medication in addition can kind of, again, dampen that constant craving and motivation and desire to use, then that would hugely help our behavioral therapy. Our patients can engage better and learn, concentrate, rather than to be so bombarded with this just strong desire to use a drug.
I'm Bianca Seward, News 88.7.
In sports, the Rockets beat the Indiana Pacers yesterday, 118-114. Houston takes on Boston tomorrow at home. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour of Hello Houston. It is February 3rd.
Hello, Houston.
Hello.
We're back. It is the afternoon now, Ernie.
Oh, good. Happy afternoon,
Just
everyone.
to be clear.
We made it into the afternoon. I'm very excited. We just were talking about the upcoming Broadway season that'll start in, I guess it's September.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite of all of those that we heard about?
Probably the one I'm most curious to see is Death Becomes Her.
Me too.
Because it got such great response, such great reviews, and everyone was talking about it. It became like the darling of Broadway. And it's one of those shows that, yes, there are stars in it, but stars can tour with it also that may not be the same stars that on Broadway, but I think the show itself is what you want to see. And so missing it on Broadway isn't a detriment. Like there's some shows that it's like very carried on the performer who's starring in it, you know? This one I think is just a great show with technical advances that you want to see in the theater. So I'm excited.
Have you seen O'Mary? Have you seen O'Mary?
I haven't.
It's
I have.
hysterical.
It's very funny.
Absolutely priceless.
So it's not in the series.
I know it's not.
But the way he was hinting, I get the feeling he's trying to.
Well, and I asked him during the break, what is the attraction for these stars and these theater people to want to perform here in Houston? His first answer was the venue. We have great venues that people really like. And then we have like a 98% fill up the theater rate.
Yeah, sale rate.
Just unheard of. That we
very
really love our theater.
We support our arts here in Houston, and we support our arts right here in Houston Public Media. How was that for a segue?
I don't know where you're going with that.
You know, it's funny because O'Mary blew up, but before it blew up, I used to watch Cole Escola on Amy Sedaris' show, At Home with Amy. And so just to see him going from this Instagram, social media kind of cult following with Amy Sedaris' comedy, very comedy centric, to then everybody knowing who he is and his success has been fabulous.
Yeah, I saw his second to last show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We saw Friday and he was out Saturday.
It's kind of like Titanic, where both of these shows started off as kind of like the stars, the creators of the show were just kind of creating something they enjoyed. Yeah. And then it kind of, they played it for people and it kind of started getting a cult following and it started to build. And in a very quick time, for both shows now, Titanic is going to go open on Broadway, and Ty Blue, who's co-creator of it, director of it, is from our area. He's a Houston boy. And then Cole Escola with O'Mary, taking that up and getting it to Broadway and becoming the toast of Broadway, which many people say helped revitalize the fresh new material on Broadway. So
kind of like the Tuna Texas boys. Remember Tuna Texas?
Oh, yeah.
And they would just perform at dinner parties, like for a party of 4, you know?
Yeah.
And they just built, more and more people wanted to see them do the Tuna Texas.
Two guys played characters from this town of Tuna, Texas, and they played all the characters, with quick changes, and it grew and grew. And then we had Maureen on yesterday from the 1894 Grand Opera.
That's when I first
Grand
saw it.
1894, and they used to perform there all the time.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
I had them on when I was the weatherman at Channel 13. I had them on to do the weather with me during the week.
I wonder if they would have still performed if it would have been named Trump's Grand Opera.
Oh, it's not going to be named Trump's Grand Opera House. That I think is a safe bet. But yeah, so it's been a fun first hour. We're into the second hour. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking with one of the judge candidates for Harris County Civil Court at Law number 2 seat.
And a little weather real quick.
You want a little weather?
Yeah,
Give me a little weather,
I think we got
Frank.
for our YouTubers, we have a skyline for them. But there we go. You can see it's a little cloudy. Few showers. We're going to have a line of showers that looks like move through later tonight, and then it cools us back down. By that, I mean 60s and 40s for highs and lows. By the weekend, we're back to 70s and 50s for highs and lows.
Yeah.
So a warming trend and a quiet sky into the weekend after tonight.
Yesterday, when we had the picture up, it almost looked like an illustration. It was so clear and so
like
pretty.
AI.
Yeah, and so crisp. And so today I see it a little foggier, a little less exact than what we want, but it's looking pretty nice.
It's a fabulous skyline.
Yeah.
We really have one
I
of the
do find
best.
it weird when I was driving into work and it's sunny and raining on my car.
Yes,
and
that
I'm
happens. There's sunny rain showers. All right, well, let's move on. Celeste.
Got some news headlines for us.
Applications are now open for Texas's new school voucher program called the Education Savings Accounts. The program lets eligible families use state funds for private school tuition and certain educational expenses. Supporters call it a step toward more school choice, while critics warn it could pull money from public schools. Families apply online, and if demand exceeds funding, not every student will be selected. Priority goes to low-income students and those with disabilities. Approved families can receive up to about $10,400 per student with extra support for special needs. Funds can cover tuition at approved private schools, tutoring, and instructional materials. What are your thoughts on school vouchers? We are finally here. This is a topic that we have talked extensively about on Hello Houston. Have your thoughts changed about how it will affect the education system now that it's here? Give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
I want to go to you first, Celeste, just because you have skin in the game here.
Yes, and at the same time, I think that people are going to have to really, this is another thing where individuals and families have to look at how this is going to affect them. We know one of the big criticism around this was that private school applications are already difficult. This puts a big burden on parents. The question becomes, who is going to actually benefit from this program?
Mm-hmm.
That's
the answer is not public schools.
Right.
I mean, from what I understand, for every student that is in a public school, the state of Texas gives that school $6,100. If that student leaves for this $10,000 voucher, that $6,100 goes with him. So you lose that money because of this voucher program, and that student goes somewhere else. And so you say to the public schools, well, up your game, and people won't leave, right? So that does put pressure on them. But at the same time, that's not always possible because the grass is always greener for so many people. They're going to leave. So the public school system is absolutely going to be affected. And then I think this is a clever way to get public money into the private school sector, and then you get to tell them what to do. You get to tell them what library books they should be reading. You get to tell them what should be on their walls, like the 10 Commandments. You get to tell them what kind of teachers they should be hiring, because they can't say, well, we're private. You have nothing to do with us. Oh, yeah, we do. You have 50 students here that are all on $10,000 vouchers. Do the math. We have a lot to do with your school now. I think it's a Trojan horse.
My concern in this falls into the economic hierarchy that it leads to, because as we've talked about before, that the actual amount of money that they're giving to each student is not enough to cover most private school tuitions. And so you have to have some means to be able to still send someone to these private schools.
Maybe. These private schools have scholarships, right? So
yes, but they only go out to a certain amount of students. There's very strict requirements around who gets them, and I think the scholarships are usually very competitive.
So
well,
if you take your
right now, but it may be that some of these schools say, especially church-based schools, say, look, our tuition is $15,000, but we can find a donation and a scholarship for you, and take your $10,400, and we'll make up the rest.
Right.
I think that's going to happen a lot.
I'm curious to see how this actually happens in practice.
Well,
the
other states, it's in a lot of other states, and they seem to be okay with it. So it might be an okay as long as the government doesn't come in and start trying to change the curriculum of private schools.
713-440-8870. You can join us on Hello Houston.
While we wait for response to that, I'm going to move on to another story that's extremely concerning and very worrisome. A reward of up to $2,500 has been offered for information in the disappearance of the mother of Today's Show host, Savannah Guthrie. Authorities in Arizona believe Nancy Guthrie, 84, was kidnapped, abducted, or otherwise taken against her will. Guthrie was last seen at her home in the Catalina Foothills area of Arizona on Saturday night around 9:45 p.m. local time, according to Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Department is investigating the possibility she was taken overnight, saying that there were signs at the home of struggle that Guthrie did not leave on her own. What are your thoughts on this very strange and disturbing case? Have you had any experience like this when you were caring for an elderly parent or person? 713-440-8870.
It's extremely alarming and sad, and I mean it's
awful.
It's awful.
Yeah. Apparently, blood was found at that scene. I don't know if it was hers or someone else's.
They did say they've collected DNA from the scene.
But they haven't gotten the results back yet.
Right.
She has a medication that she has to have every day, and if she doesn't have it, she could die.
And you have to ask motive.
Right. That's where I come in.
What is the motive of taking an 84-year-old woman?
Was she taken because of who she was, or was she taken and randomly happened to be Savannah Guthrie's mother, that this was just something going on in that area? We don't know enough about that, but it's just disturbing. And especially the whole thing yesterday we were watching on the news, it was getting to that 24-hour point where she needed to take her medication, and there was a lot of concern about that. The other thing I don't know is if there's no ransom note or demands or anything, what is the point of taking this woman? Why would you take?
That we know of.
Yeah.
The investigators are probably working with the family, and the family might be saying, we don't want people to know that this is a ransom case. That also brings in question when we're looking at these type situations. What does that mean, the broader conversation of public figures and family members, if it is a ransom situation?
And so crazy that the trees are so high and the houses are so far away from the road that there's not much camera going on. So you get a lot of cameras that can find out, at least give you some clue as to what happened. But she didn't walk very well, from what I understand. She wouldn't have just wandered, even if she had dementia, which she doesn't. She wouldn't have wandered away.
Yeah, you kind of swallowed what you were saying there. They have said that there is no dementia at play here. Right. It's not a situation like that.
She's cognitively sound.
Right. And Yeah, they said that she didn't show up at church on Sunday, which was the first sign where
she didn't take her phone. I heard that she did not take her phone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that indicates that she was abducted.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, well, she's not there.
Right.
So clearly, she clearly she was abducted. I mean, but the reason is what's hard to find.
Well, no, but there could be other things. Now, we don't know all of the lay of the land there, but somebody could leave, have had an injury and maybe a head injury and wandered off. Not like, so there are different things that could be at play. We should not assume anything until we know what we're talking about. What were you going to say, Celeste?
We are getting quite a few comments on YouTube, and somebody says, Cosme says her daughter was supposed to start hosting the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's another situation.
Yeah. We also have, of course, Alex Garza says, praying for the Guthrie family. I hope they find Nancy Guthrie. I think the whole nation does feel this. There's no negativity toward it.
No.
This is a tragic event, no matter how you slice it, and our hearts all go out to them.
Yeah,
as well.
I just hope they find her.
Yeah.
Alive and well.
That I think is what is so hard about this, that she's well.
Yeah.
She's alive and that she's well.
Yes, let's hope.
Yeah. Frank, take us on to the last story. Since we did mention the Olympics, we'll change tone a little bit.
It's that time. I'll tell you, it seems like it does happen every 2 years.
Yeah,
Summer and winter.
remember when we were kids, it was every 4 years. Boom. Then they swapped the rotation so that you get an Olympics every 2 years.
That's throwing me off.
Well, we have a local connection. I know. Emily Chan, born in Pasadena, is competing for Team USA in the pairs competition with partner Spencer Akira Howe. Chan's first time qualifying for the Olympics. She and Howe have skated as a pair for 7 years. They had a roller coaster to get there. Let me tell you, they had some difficulties in the U.S. Nationals short program, but then they championed their way to clinch an Olympic spot. They've got the dream going. Chan is 28, has a background in gymnastics and dances to improve her figure skating. The U.S. is sending its largest ever Winter Olympics, by the way, to Italy. 232 athletes.
Wow.
I know. And the figure skating pairs short program is Sunday, February 15th. The pairs free skate is Monday, February 16th. So that's nice to have a connection. Overall, I don't know if anyone wants to chime in, 713-440-8870. Is this something that interests you? We're not a winter, other than an occasional blast, we're not a winter-centric city. Do you like the Winter Olympics?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy them. I mean, I enjoy all the Olympics, probably about the same. When they're on, if it's a sport that kind of catches my eye, I'll sit and watch. I do enjoy the opening ceremonies. I love pageantry, so I'm looking forward to that. And you can't help but think heated rivalry. The two stars of the show are torchbearers for the Winter Olympics, and they're expecting a higher viewership on the hockey matches because of the success of that show on HBO.
Well, I have a fun tidbit. One of our Houston Public Media colleagues, Mark Norris, is going to be at the Winter Olympics, and we've already chatted, and he's going to be giving us some updates directly from there.
Yes, he's going to be at the opening ceremony, and then he's for the first week he's there, and he's going to catch a couple more of the events. And he went by himself. He was like, you know what, I'm going to go do this. Yeah. And I think what a cool thing to do. Yeah. Have any of you been to the Olympics? Have you seen it? Give us a call. I'd love to know what the reality of it is compared to what we see on TV. Mark, our staff member, our coworker who's going, he was talking about, you hang out in the Olympic Village and you meet the athletes. It seems so foreign to me that it's accessible like that.
Yeah.
Personally, I love the Olympics in general, whether it's the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics. I just think it's something that really is incredible to see. Every little girl I know watches the Winter Olympics and thinks, if I just would have started when I was 3 months old, I could be a figure skater, right? Like we all dream it. And they make these athletes, especially I think in the Winter Olympics, make their sport looks so easy.
Yes.
That anybody could just pick up and get on a pair of skates and go skate and do, a half pike jump or whatever, twist. And it's not. It's so hard just ice skate.
Oh, yeah.
Much less dance and look graceful and be beautiful about it.
Yeah,
So,
it's learning the technical of it all, figuring it all out, putting it together, and then putting it on, and it looks like it took no effort at all.
no effort. Yeah.
Though the
figure
Galleria
skating.
ice skating is still popular, right? So
Are
people like
people
to
still
do
out
it.
there skating? At
Have
the
you ever
Galleria?
tried to ice skate? You're from the
Oh,
north.
yeah, we used to ice skate.
But you could do it.
Not well. I was never a good ice. My brother played ice hockey.
Yeah.
So he ice skated and he learned. A lot of the kids in the neighborhood did. I could skate, but I wasn't doing any tricks or anything, let me tell you.
Yeah. Might as well have been high life for us because we didn't do either one of those.
Yeah.
But coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Ebony Williams about her run for the Harris County Civil Court at Law Number 2 Judge seat. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro fare system will replace the old Metro Q fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
Many Americans asking, what is the middle class in 2026 and is it still achievable? That's our question next time on The Middle.
You can hear it Thursday night at 8.
Did you know your gift to Houston Public Media could go twice or even 3 times as far through your employer's matching gift program? Many companies will match the charitable donations of their employees, and some even match gifts from retirees. That means your support for trusted news and programs could have double the impact for our community. Find out if your company participates at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, the new 4-part series Black and Jewish America traces the rich, complex relationship that was drawn together by racism and anti-Semitism. Tonight at 8 on TV8.
Support comes from Theater Under the Stars and the Broadway musical $1 Million Quartet, featuring the music of Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins. February 17th through March 1st at the Hobby Center. Tickets at tuts.org.
Ellen Benninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer are proud sponsors of Houston Matters with Craig Cohen. Tune in Monday through Friday at 9 on News 88.7.
Support comes from Asia Society Texas, presents The Big Swim, a musical retelling of the Lunar New Year fable setting the order of the 12 zodiac animals, February 20th through 22nd. More at asiasociety.org/Texas.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hey, and by the way, I ran the Olympic torch twice.
You did?
Once for the Summer Olympics in L.A. and then for the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, you used to tease me about Emmy wins. And I would yeah, but look at that on the wall. You had 2 Olympic torches in your house. That was awesome.
You get to buy them. You're on your way to your location. They'll say, and if you would like to buy your Olympic torch.
You're kidding.
Oh, yeah. They were expensive, too.
Yeah.
But you buy them.
You can buy
they just
any
ask you never to relight them because they still have fuel in them. You could relight them, but they ask you just on your honor, don't ever do that.
You and Kevin marching around the house with your lit torches as the Olympics begin.
That's our heated rivalry. All right. Ebony Williams is a candidate for the Harris County Civil Court at Law Number 2 Judge seat, the position currently held by Judge Jim Kovach. He served in that role since 2019. Last week, we spoke with Judge Kovach about his reelection campaign, and today we are joined by the attorney challenging him in the upcoming primary. So to tell us more about her platform and why she decided to run, we're joined now by Ebony Williams. Ebony, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here with you all.
Thank you.
And with the Mr. Frank. I grew up watching you on TV, so.
Well, maybe you saw me run those torches. So, okay, Ebony, talk to us. Why do you want to throw your hat into this judge ring?
Absolutely. So, me throwing my hat into the judge ring has been a moment in the making for a very long time. I've been a licensed attorney for 15 years. It'll be 15 years in May. And I've always just had a heart for public service, helping others in my community across the state of Texas. And my legal career has just taken me from one side of Texas to the next. And I've had the esteemed privilege and pleasure to appear in just courtrooms across this state where I've had the chance to witness firsthand, whether on my own behalf or represent others, just how decisions can affect and change the trajectory of someone's life. And I worked for the Attorney General for 8 years as an assistant attorney general. handling trials all over the state of Texas. And so for me, it was a small pivot to really decide to, you know what, I've observed as a litigator from this capacity, I want to be able to influence and to be able to have a more, provide more of a direction or resolution to issues that I know come before these courts, and just pull on that knowledge base that I've been able to gather over the last 15 years and see what comes of it.
In the primary, you're running against the incumbent, which is Judge Jim Kovach. Is this a run because it's an opportunity for a seat? Is it a run because you have concern with the candidate that's currently in that seat? Or is it something else at play here?
For me, it's an opportunity for the seat. As it pertains to the current the judge that's on the bench, there have been things that have been shared with me since I announced my candidacy as to, people that do appear before him as to why, it may be time for a change. I'm not sure, I don't give, voice to rumors and things like that I can't verify, right? But for me, it was more so knowing that I can bring a perspective to this seat where so many issues that affect Texans, Houstonians, people across Harris County come before these bench. They're dealing with housing instability, financial issues. This is a court that deals with eviction appeals. It can have an effect on whether people's money was coming into their household. And I've been able to have, like I say, build that knowledge base in my own practice, my own career, to where sometimes context is needed. People are not just a checklist. You go into a courtroom and you're checking off a box. It's not a popularity contest. Our citizens in this community are owed the respect and the understanding that when they come into these courts, that their issues will be handled with care, with dignity, with respect, and above all else, fairness.
Ms. Williams, you mentioned time for a change. Then how will you be different when looking at issues such as evictions or cases regarding people's finances versus Joe Kovach?
For sure. So one of the things that I have been able to witness in my career, like I've mentioned, is people, when they come into a courtroom, they need to know it's a safe place. They need to know that they are getting just as fair of a chance as those with the big money, with the 2 and 3 and 4 attorneys, And so just honoring that, because I've worked a lot on boots on the ground with people that don't have money and resources. And so I know what that sometimes looks like when they are thinking, when they come into a courtroom, that I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's being said. Someone's talking above my head. So I'm able to have that real world perspective and context to them before me in the court, letting them notice that this is a place where kindness will reign, but also where they will be given a fair shot to present their case. And I think that's what matters. A lot of people are intimidated by the law. And in my courtroom, that will not be the case, because I know what it feels like to be on the other side and uncertain one way or the other about what's going on. So just giving that reverence, I think, to people cases, I think will make a difference.
Mm-hmm. I ask this question often of people running for positions like you are, and more of a philosophical question, I guess, here. How do you balance between doing what is the letter of the law and the humanity of individuals? Because oftentimes those two things are not the same, and you have to make those decisions. How do you wage that?
Absolutely. So judges have to enforce the law. Whatever the law is, that's what we have to do. But you can do so with protecting people's rights. And I think before you make a decision that can change that trajectory of the current state of their lives, you have to give it the weight that they deserve. You have to make sure their rights are protected. Due process is integral, like above all else. So before you make a decision and before you are treating them, ruling on their issues, making sure that their service is good, they've received notice, and not just notice in passing that may have been thrown on their porch or something like that before you decide to evict them. You have to treat them with humanity, like with humane kindness, fairness, impartiality for sure, but also enforcing the law. There's a way to do it. I've seen great judges across the state that have handled these cases with care. I've also seen those that have not, and so for me, it's really, really, really critical that those observations, due process, are honored and protected before you even go further to make a ruling on someone's case.
So then, from your perspective, how much discretion that you speak of does a civil judge actually have when applying the law?
There isn't. So we judges, attorneys, law school teaches us how to find information in order to do our job, right? Research and stuff like that. Case law is constantly evolving. There's such, continuing legal education courses. We owe it to ourselves, to our constituents, if you're an attorney, to your clients, to be on top of the latest changes in the law, because sometimes those changes can make a difference in how you do rule. So that's one of the ways that you can do that. You can still enforce the law, but you better make sure that you are applying the relevant law and nothing that's either not in passing or that's no longer good law.
So tell me this, why do you think you're the best candidate for this position?
I love that question. So I think I'm the best candidate because I'm born and raised Houston, Texas. I'm a Houstonian native. To this great city, to this great county. I was born over in Sharpstown Hospital, 1984. And so for me, I have, since I was a little girl, just been immersed in the community that appears in these courts. And I think that matters. Not just, I have the experience, I have the education behind my name. I've done the work. And I've been able to help thousands and thousands and thousands of Texans over the course of my career. I think I could bring a fresh perspective, still being impartial, still implementing the law. But I think when you are asking people to vote for you, like, you owe it to them for them to know who they're voting for and not just take their vote for granted. And I think I know that I can be a good steward of this seat. With the understanding that this is a seat that the people entrusted in me, and you can't forget that as a judge, you're not owed this seat. And when you operate in that understanding, I think it makes a difference in how you run your courtroom and how efficient and effective that you can be.
An area that your court would have to deal with a lot, as you mentioned already, is evictions. And I'm curious your views on where we sit with the housing problems we face as a city today with growth and the economy and all of that, because that oftentimes is what impacts these people being in the position of having to come before you with an eviction.
So Houston is exploding by leaps and bounds, and I think even more since COVID. And so, though I think that's a charge to the lawmakers as far as what guidance the courts can abide by as how to implement the laws as it pertains, I guess, to eviction into housing. I think at its core, a lot of people don't know their rights as it pertains to what governs their housing rights, right? Whether it's like their lease agreement. A lot of people, unfortunately, may sign their lease agreement and not realize what they are entitled to. So I think if we allow a hub or something for people to be informed about their rights, I think that starts to make a difference on how they can protect themselves going forward. As far as the law that's in place, that's not something I can necessarily speak to because I don't write that law, right? I enforce the law. So that's probably the extent of that. And, I'm always mindful of speaking into specifics because these cases can possibly be in my court one day.
Ms. Williams, I asked Mr. Kovach the same question, and I'm going to ask you. Texas is now the first state to end the American Bar Association oversight for law schools. What are your thoughts on this?
So, man, that's a great question. I think... So my thoughts are always on how it affects our potential clients and clients. Mm-hmm. Clients are owed competent, knowledgeable attorneys. Mm-hmm. And if there are measures that can be put in place to ensure that they are competent and knowledgeable and can do the job, then, you know, I support that. You know, Texas does its thing, you know. They're always, this is about as kind as I can put it. They do their thing. But I think clients can find the information, potential clients, the information they need that will make them comfortable with who they ultimately choose as an attorney. I went to Southern University, one of the finest law schools in the country. I'm biased, yes, I am. But I think it's important to have measures in place that can provide reassurance to clients that they are getting competent attorneys from quality schools.
Curious, what reforms or innovations do you believe are still needed to improve access to justice and quality of civil adjudication in Harris County? What policies, programs do you think are needed?
Access to justice is so critical. People need to know about the resources. They need a hub. They need somewhere they can go to where if they cannot afford an attorney, they know how to protect and enforce their rights. So I think the law should not be based in mystery, right? It should be transparent. I think it's critical. And it should not be so tied up in legalese that people don't understand. And so we can start to peel back some of those layers. I think that makes a difference. You know, having resources when they're coming into the courtroom, you know, pamphlets on the different organizations that may be out there to be able to help them navigate their issues. I think that makes a difference as well, because the judges can only do their job if the public has trust in the judiciary, you know, and access to justice is so critical, making sure that people know, okay, how can we be more efficient of these people, cases that are coming into the court, being efficient with their time, being efficient with the taxpayers' money, things like that. I think it makes a difference in ensuring that there is access to justice and that people trust the judiciary to be and confident in the decisions that we can make.
What do you think is the hardest part? What would be the hardest part of being a civil judge?
So, I think the hardest part probably would be you have big dockets, you know, you have to move your cases. And you have to sometimes give a little bit more of your time to ensure that you're moving your cases and people are getting their cases heard in a timely fashion. Sometimes that may come with sacrifices. You may have to stay a little later. You know, you may have to move your weekend plans around or something. But I think that's a charge that comes with the job to make sure that you can do the job, because there are backlogs in courts across the county and things like that. And one of the things that's really important to me is ensuring that my dockets are efficient and that I am giving every single case the appropriate weight it deserves. And if that means that I have to do a little bit extra in order to do so, I'm committed to doing that, because that's part of the job. You're not running to be a judge just to, you know, reap all the benefits. You're there to do a job to help the citizens of this county.
Good enough. Well, thank you for being here today, and good luck. And thank you for being a weather fan.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. In this city, you have to be a fan. So I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all's time. And everybody go out and vote March 3rd. Thank you.
That's right. Ebony Williams is a candidate for the Harris County Civil Court at Law Number 2 Judge. Ebony, again, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
It's my pleasure. Y'all have a good one.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Amy DuBois Barnett about her and her mother's historic achievements. Stay with us.
Houston, say hello to the Ride Metro Fare Card. It's the new way to ride. The Ride Metro fare system will replace the old MetroQ fare card and will make buying your bus and train fares easier than ever before. Visit ridemetro.org/fare system.
The news and information you rely on. It only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston, and we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen, so subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear revelations from well-known actors, like Zach Galifianakis on the story behind his last name.
It's actually shortened, Terry. My real last name is Galifianakisberg. That's an exclusive for your show.
Fresh Air, bringing you some of the biggest names in American culture and some of the most difficult to pronounce. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro fare system replaces the Metro Q fare card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. Support comes from Rice University's Master of Interdisciplinary Studies, a flexible degree taught by Rice faculty, balancing life and learning for working adults. Applications due by October 15th. More at gls.rice.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Amy DuBois Barnett is an award-winning media executive who has served as the editor-in-chief of 3 prominent magazines, including Teen People, Honey, and Ebony. Much like her mother, Dr. Marguerite Barnett, who made history as the first Black woman to lead a major American university during her presidency at the University of Houston. Amy made history as the first Black woman to run a major mainstream magazine. And now she's making her debut as an author with the release of her novel, If I Ruled the World, which explores the cutthroat world of hip-hop and the glamorous magazine scene of the late 1990s. She joins us now to tell us more about her extraordinary media career and her debut novel. Amy, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is really an exciting time for you. I mean, you're picking up another title, author. Talk to us about that.
I know, I'm thrilled. I mean, I did write an NAACP Image Award nominated advice book for women in around 2007. But this is my first novel, and it is a return to my original dream. I actually got a master's in fine arts in my 20s, and I always thought I was going to become a novelist and sort of spend my days doing that forever. And then I sort of got pulled into a media career that I'm very proud of. But, I did not have the creative bandwidth to finish a novel. So I'm thrilled that my book baby is finally out there in the world.
That's fantastic.
Did you sit and write it, or did you write a couple chapters every week?
I actually started this book when I was editor-in-chief of Teen People. So I was in my 30s. And I put it down to write my nonfiction book, and also, again, because I needed more bandwidth to really write it. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I did, because the perspective, the distance from that era really allowed me greater insight and made the book much more layered and complex.
Nice. I'm always curious when someone writes their first book, what it was about this story that said to you, this is something I need to tell. What drew you into it, and especially all the years that you had with it to get to it, that kept you interested?
It's loosely inspired by my experience as an editor-in-chief because, as you mentioned, the book is set in late 1990s, early 2000s New York City, at the intersection of music and magazines and the heyday of sort of magazines, and also one of the most important cultural eras of our time. And we follow the journey of our protagonist, Nikki Rose, who is a Black editor who is coming not of age, because she's 29 when we meet her, but she's coming of power inside of influential institutions where sort of glamour and romance coexist alongside misogyny danger, because this is a dangerous time, to be a woman. And as I really thought about the story, when I picked it over the years, and then when I picked it back up, the underlying themes became more urgent than ever. Because I was really interested in talking about that particular era, the era that we're all hearing about in the news and on TV, the reckoning, pun intended, that's happening in the music industry. I was interested in writing about that from a female perspective. And I was also interested in saying a little bit more about, the price of ambition for women and what it takes to really find your voice. And so it's a fun page turner of a novel, but it felt urgent to me because of the layers of important issues that I wanted to thread throughout.
So I want to go and touch back on something that you said. You mentioned, you said coming of age. And so she's 29. She's not really coming of age. But I think for so many women and men, too, your career is kind of coming of age into your 30s. You're kind of coming into this space of knowing yourself and knowing what you want. How much of your own experience comes through and takes into account into Nikki Rose?
I love how you asked that. That was very delicate. Everybody's like, is this your story? Is this a Ramona Clay? I totally get it. It is not. It is not my personal journey.
Yeah.
However, it is. It's inspired by my experience and by things that I observed, and obviously, it's set in a world that I know better than almost anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful because I was inside of culture in a way that allowed me to both shape culture and also be an observer and have a good time. I mean, this was truly a fun time to be alive. But I was also not on the inside circle enough such that I was really in any real danger, nor did I put myself in danger. So the journey of my protagonist, Nikki, is really one in which, I sort of imagine what would it have been like if I had made these bad mistakes over here. I made plenty of mistakes in my time, but I didn't make the mistakes in the book. So it was sort of a projection, based on what would have happened if I had done this versus that. And also, I observed so many things that my friends went through. And so I did put all of that into the book.
Would you consider writing an autobiography? Or in some ways, does this fill your need to tell the story that would also come out of an autobiography?
I think what really filled that need for the moment is the nonfiction book that I wrote, because the advice book that I published earlier had lots of personal anecdotes threaded throughout, and it really was a reflection of my philosophy and the way that I walk through the world. And so that for me was a love letter to my mom, that we spoke about, and it really again was a very personal sort of foray into publishing. Perhaps I'll write a memoir down the road, but at the moment I'm so excited by my career as a novelist and a storyteller because I actually have a development deal for the television adaptation of If I Ruled the World with Lee Daniels, Oscar-nominated genius Lee Daniels, at Hulu. So I'm thrilled. I know exactly. I'm thrilled.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled for this stage of my journey.
Which I know you're here to talk about If I Ruled the World, but I do want to go back to your advice book. How much of it was writing to yourself and almost talking to your young self and giving yourself that advice, or how much was it from your perspective now and looking at it to younger people?
When I wrote my advice book, I was in my mid-30s, but so I did not have a lot of perspective on a certain level or a lot of insight. However, because my mom passed away when I was 22, I learned, and she was an extraordinary woman. So I got a lot of sort of life lessons from her, and then I learned a lot of very difficult life lessons after she passed away. And so I had more insight, I think, than most people would have at that age. So it wasn't really about sort of writing to my younger self. It was really about writing to my peers, and in a way where I would talk about my failures. I like to sort of, and my successes. I like to humanize success, and I like to also express to people that everybody has failures. We all have mistakes. It's just sort of the way that you come back up. So that was really my goal in writing it.
Kind of a philosophical question. Where do you think ambition comes from?
Just overall?
For yourself, is it something, is it mirroring what you saw from your mother? Is it a desire within you that's naturally born there? Is it trying to fix a wrong you see in the world around you and you feel you can do it? Where does that come from to drive someone, do you think?
I was extremely fortunate to have the example of my mother. There aren't a lot of people, unfortunately, given the way in which women have had struggled to achieve in this country, who've had the example of a mother who was as accomplished as my mother and who was also as loving as she was. She was really an extraordinary human being, and so watching her grow up really did give me a perspective on ambition and expectation, that may have been slightly different than what most people have. And I also have something in me, I've always had the highest expectations for myself. And I've always felt, especially in difficult times, as this is something I've said to myself many, many times over the years, I've said, okay, Amy, if not you, then who? If not you, then who? And what I mean by that is that I knew that I had not just a particular sort of example of my mother and a kind of energy within me, but also a set of experiences and a background that would allow me the privilege to kick down certain kinds of doors and bring people in with me and after me. And I hope that is ultimately my legacy, is really being able to create opportunities for other people who don't have a similar example that I had in my mother and a similar set of experiences.
When you wrote your setting in the late 90s, we weren't texting. We were charged 48 cents a minute for a cell phone call. The world really. How do you think this plays in today's world? Because themes are themes, challenges are challenges. Some things just never change. But the world has changed since the setting of this book.
Oh, totally. I mean, honestly, this particular period of time was so much fun. In part because we weren't on our phones like that. We were really present in the moment. We were there. And so I this book is like a peek behind the curtain of a world that most people, don't have access to, and of a time where people were present again in a different way than they are today. So, I'm excited because it's sort of historical fiction on a certain level, right? In that it's, 20 years ago.
That's very scary that the 90s is historical
fiction now.
Who are you
telling? I know. What can I say? Aging all of us in here. But yeah, I think that, what's great about the themes of this book, though, is that they're more relevant than ever. Mm-hmm. The way in which my protagonist navigates misogyny, sexual harassment, sexual violence in that era is more relevant than ever. The way in which she has to decide who she's willing to become and what she's willing to sacrifice in order to realize her dreams is more relevant than ever. And you're really thinking about how one, particularly as a woman, becomes empowered and finds and maintains your voice. Then it was very important. And today it's again, this is another theme that has circled back around and has become more urgent and important than ever.
Well, you could do a sequel. Delaware's Prada is coming back.
That is true.
So you could do advance this whole thing to the last 5 years and see where it goes.
You never know. I mean, I have a 2-book deal with Flatiron.
So there you have it.
Which is wonderful. But my second book has nothing to do with this one. It's not a series. So I'm thinking that the themes, there's at least 2 seasons in the book of my TV show, and I have a million stories in my head. So I'm thinking that the themes will kind of, in the storyline will continue. But I also am very interested in the other characters that are surrounding my protagonist. Mm-hmm. And maybe down the line, maybe for book 3 or 4, I will take up the story of one of the ancillary characters and see where that leads me.
Sure.
Yeah. You were talking about, and I know we're running tight on time, so I apologize for this question, but when you look at the 90s and the situations that women faced in that time, and you were talking about it, the sexual harassment and all that, is it hard to write with today's knowledge and view and put yourself back to that time when we looked at these things in a very different light as a society? Individually, we may not have looked at them differently, but what was accepted, what was allowed, what happened, is it hard to get back to that time?
I am grateful for the years of insight that I've had since that era to be able to look back and really understand the situation that we were in and understand the perspective of myself, certainly, and most women that I know, in that, we didn't have a recourse. We didn't really have a place to go. What were we going to do? Go to HR? I mean, that was not so much a thing back then. The sexual harassment and the general misogyny was threaded throughout culture. And I'm, again, grateful that I've had all of these years to be able to look back with much greater clarity. Mm-hmm. And I can put forth this story, from a woman's perspective and make it relevant for today, but still, behind the scenes peek into a glamorous but also perilous era.
If I Ruled the World.
Amy DuBois Barnett and is award-winning media executive and author of If I Ruled the World. Amy, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. I hope that you further join me tonight. I'll be at Brazos Bookstore at 6:30. I'll be in conversation with a local bookstagrammer related to my book. I'll be doing a reading as well. So Brazos Bookstore at 6:30. And If I Rule the World is available now wherever you buy books.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening today to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovach. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Austin College, where students engage with a dedicated faculty mentor, experience hands-on learning, and discover their own academic journey. Located in Sherman, Texas.